I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. Welcome to our show. I've been doing this for many years. Excuse for a little change of voice here. Tail end of a cold. It's about wellness. And I quit neurosurgery a couple of years ago after doing it for 45 years at age 39. About 30 of those years, 35 of those years, I decided the majority of what I was looking at the patients needed coaching. They didn't need a lot of the procedures I thought we were doing. And so I became very interested. I started reading about it and wrote a lot about the welcome to your mind, body, what your neurotransmitters do to your body, for example, based on Candace Pert's work. And then I started instant nutrition. If you go to cashmanhealth.com, you can really pull about 5 years worth of TV shows all about fat, salt, sugar, marijuana, sitting disease, gluten, whatever, and really educate yourself. And that's just great that people can do this, and it's all for free. And today's show, I'm the wellness director at Lutheran Hospital this time, and I'm going to do that for about 3 years, which is just great to me because I can run TV shows, give lectures at corporations, things I do regularly, and I get a lot of people well by giving them information. We lack information, and many of us don't participate in our health care. That's important. I want you to participate in health care. That's number one. You need to gather information, unless you fell out of a plane or got a broken leg or something. Read about the drugs they're giving you, how they're going to treat you. Learn about it, the internet, other opinions. I think it's very important. A lot of us don't do that enough, and it's a very important thing. And at Lutherans, we have great specialists, but we want you to help participate in the healthcare. Today's subject is sort of interesting. It's fairly new. It's been around about 15 years, but not many people know a lot about it. It's called upon your genes, epigenetics. And the wonderful thing that I learned there is you think what you inherit, well, that's pretty much it. There's not much I can do about it. Wrong. 95% of our DNA, which is in our nucleus, it's the chromosomes, 46 of them, for example, the helix, Watson and Crick, 1954. They discovered they get the Nobel Prize over it. So we have about 46 chromosomes, about 30,000 genes, okay? But the genes are the ones that express what the DNA is trying to say. And permeations of that, about 300 million permeations of that, of 4 amino acids only, A, G, C, T. Yeah, permeations of that express our proteins, our genetic structure. 95% of that you can influence by how you use your fingers, what you put on your fork, and what you breathe from the environment or eat from the environment can affect your gene expression. Wow, that's really unbelievable. And it goes back a few generations. So what grandfathers ate and how they used their fingers or whether they exercise, and the parents before fertilization, and what they do when the child is in the uterus will affect the child tremendously in your future, tremendously. If you develop diabetes, gestational diabetes during pregnancy, for example, the odds of the child being diabetic or obese is high. So it's very important to pay some attention of our gene expression. The interesting thing is, too, that it can have a tremendous effect on us ourselves. For example, there are genes in plants. There's genetic structure in plants. And if you're eating, say, mainly vegetables and fruits, that they themselves have in them what are called biomathematics. Through nature, there are mathematical formulas in plants. Yeah, just look at this. You see plants that have, one leaf, two leaves, then three, then five, then 8. You always take the last two numbers and add them up. That's called Fibonacci numbers. They are in nature. There's beauty in nature. Why are plants so beautiful? Took a walk this morning, and because they have in them mathematics. That mathematics in those plants can be applied to your body. If you look at my website, cashmanhealth.com, they look at the PowerPoint on diabetes. I have pictures, I think, of 4 people there that had serious weight problems beforehand, and then they started eating 80% or so of plant fruit type diet, and they look at them now, look like movie stars. It's the truth. I had a 360-pound guy I had met at Planet Fitness. I hadn't seen him for a year. He's from California. The doc says, "You remember me?" And no, I didn't, because now he weighed 210 pounds. And he looked gorgeous. He developed symmetry. So there's some mathematics in symmetry. And when you go back thousands of years and you look at some of the architecture, they called it the Golden Triangle or Phi. These are things that were developed many years ago. Leonardo da Vinci, he figured it out too. And that's why his paintings are so gorgeous, because he uses the Fibonacci numbers. There's some mathematics in it called a Golden Triangle. And look it up in your computer or in a book. There's a great book I'd like you to read if you have a chance, this interests you, called Deep Nutrition by Luke and Catherine Shanahan. That's worth reading. I guarantee you, you won't know what's in it already. Rarely do I meet a person who ever read those books, but it tells the importance of our habits, how we use our fingers and our forks, and whether we exercise or not, how that can affect our health, our looks, our future. And a Dr. Marquardt took a great interest in that maybe 20 years ago, a plastic surgeon. And then he started using this biomathematics in his plastic surgery. And you can make drawings and triangles. And the symmetry, he could really make people look better, but you don't necessarily need to go to plastic surgeon. If you eat right, deep nutrition, remember, deep nutrition, you eat right, there is evolutionary concordance with the food you're eating in your body. See, a lot of the foods we're eating today are inventions. They're hybridized, genetic changes, never been checked on humans, and we eat it and we're becoming sick. Is that a surprise? No, they've been genetically changed. Our weight, wheat used to be 4 feet high. Then Dr. Berlow studied it in the Rockefeller Institute at around 1948, and wheat became this tall. Never checked it in humans. We're eating it all over the world. The yield increased 10 times, came easier to raise. You hybridized it, and now the whole world's getting sick from being overweight, diabetes, because they never checked. And wheat, which used to be like, originally it was called einkorn, 12 chromosomes. Then they called it Emma. No, it was 14. 28 chromosomes, and then now it's triticum, 42 chromosomes, and the amount of nutrients and everything has been changed, and the gluten in wheat now totally different than it was originally, very unhealthy, and we're getting sick. Is that a surprise? No, it's not a surprise. That is not what has developed through evolutionary changes. It's something that we did. We hybridized it and genetically changed it, and we have a lot of illness in the world. So a lot of scientists are getting interested in epigenetics. What I say, upon your genes, our chromosomes have extensions called telomeres, and you're starting to read more about that. And those telomeres, the end of the chromosomes, can be changed by the activities that I spoke about. They're messengers that affect the expression of proteins in your body. So really, so your body is always listening to what you're doing, what you're eating, how you're exercising. It's really like a painting. You're painting your life. You're painting your life with your activities. And this is very important to know. So what you do before conception, what you do after conception, what's done in the uterus, how you treat the child afterwards, whether it's a nurturing, a loving child, whether you given the proper food and nutrition, which is being expressed in the child, will have tremendous effect on the lives of the parents and is affected by the chemistry of our body, and that's really extremely important. I mean, it's like when Columbus came here. Remember that? He went to these islands, and if you read some of the literature from that was written at that time, the natives were much more beautiful than the Europeans. You know the answer already. They had the symmetry from eating probably 90% vegetable diet. So they picked up the biomathematics, the Fibonacci numbers, which are used incidentally in stock trading too, and applied them to their bodies. They were gorgeous people, very interesting. So it's nature's desire for beauty. It's called dynamic symmetry. Nature likes symmetry. So if you think in terms of this rectangle with lines in it called the golden triangle, they called it phi too, F-I-E pronounced, but it's spelled P-H-I. They don't call it pi, phi. That's what they call it. And this has been used in architecture. Da Vinci used it in his drawings, in his painting, in the architecture. And those buildings are a lot more stable if you used those Fibonacci numbers based on nature. There's beauty in nature. So what am I saying? You get a weight problem and you look in the mirror and you say, you know, I'd like to look a little better. It won't just be the weight loss, because the biomathematics of what you're eating will affect the symmetry of your body, and you could look again like the movie star you thought you were. Interesting. And I have many pictures to prove it. Look at CashmanHealth.com and maybe read this book, and you won't it'll flabbergast you when you see it. So how you use your fingers, what you eat is extremely important, and plastic surgeons are starting to use this. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but here's an example of that golden triangle I was speaking about on the top here, and it's on page 41 of this book, and they called it Beauty's Secret Code. Fascinating, isn't this interesting? It's got a rectangle in it and a snail-like curve in it and a square, and they call it the golden rectangle. They call it phi, P-H-I plus 1, Beauty's secret code, or dynamic symmetry, if you like to call it that. Some people, the Egyptians and Greeks used it, and they worship phi as the foundation head of eternal beauty, calling it the divine ratio. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? And then Leonardo da Vinci was obsessed with geometric relationships and the structure of the human form. His famous Vitruvian Man sketch of a man superimposed on a circle and a square illustrates his own quest for a code of nature that generates living forms. Like generations of scientists before him, Dr. Marquardt focused on phi as an essential clue. The divine ratio had to be buried somewhere in the proportions of the perfect human face. He's a plastic surgeon. Isn't this fascinating? So beauty emerges from math, the math of nature. We can take full advantage of that. And you don't believe me? Look at my pictures on my website. And it's fascinating. So why we like beautiful things, nature's geometric logic, it's biomathematics. It's something that nature wants, and we used to look at the movie stars. You say the beautiful people. They look symmetrical. It's based on their genes and epigenetics and what they ate, the parents ate, and their eating, and how much they're exercising. So, but you can also develop a beautiful mind by developing symmetries in your neurons. Yeah, but how you think, how you exercise, how you train your mind can affect the epigenetics and DNA. And they'll speak about this too as phylotactic growth. In other words, from the plants. Philo means plant. And so biomathematics offers us a fundamental new perspective of the universe in the living world. Doesn't it, though? Doesn't it, though? I mean, isn't this interesting? They did extensive studies on animals, but now they're seen in humans, expressed in human beings. So it's nature's greatest gift, but we can abuse it if we don't exercise, eat the wrong food. Very interesting. And our bodies clearly seem accustomed to a far richer stream of nutrients than we manage to sip, to chew, to eat. And so it's very important what we're eating and whether we're exercising. So let's talk about a mother's wisdom a little bit. Letting your body create a perfect baby. See how important it is for a mother to watch what's on her fingers, on her forks, and whether she's exhaling or not, what she's breathing in, and what her future husband did, and what his parents did. I realize we don't sit down and make these decisions, decide, well, now we're going to have a baby. That's now it's done the majority of the time. But it's kind of nice to know about it. Kind of nice to know about it. So if you're smoking and drinking and taking drugs and you're going to have a baby, well, what do you think's going to happen? Underweight, overweight, unattractive baby is going to be born, okay? And that child may be stuck with that, although it can be influenced by what is done after that. So most American women have no idea how badly they're eating and how badly the great effects of their habits will have on the potential child. Something to consider. It's not taught. Doctors isn't teaching it. School isn't teaching it. Most people don't know it. I didn't always know it. Even in medical school, I wasn't taught. But I sure as know it now. And so I can teach it to you. And the body does have wisdom in their protection systems, no doubt about it, but we can overwhelm it. We can eat a certain amount of bad food and get away with it, but there's a limit to that. You know, you eat in a fast food restaurant all your life. I know a child I spoke about in the previous show that the family could easily afford to eat other places, but then they went to a prominent school and they stopped at a fast food restaurant that was close by every day, and the child and the food he was eating was affecting the child. The child didn't look good, didn't look healthy, and the blood work was unbelievably bad. High cholesterol, blood sugars were up, and now the child's eating right, and fortunately, because of epigenetics, was able to turn the clock backwards and now looks very healthy. And and this is even true, you know, if a woman has a child right one after the other, the second child, it can be more problems because the woman doesn't have in it the vitamins, the minerals, and the phytochemicals. They need to be restored. But if she's eating a nutrient-dense diet all the time, that happens quickly, you know, and it happens quickly. So there's a marvelous nutrient scavenging ability of a human placenta that can gather up the nutrients in the body to try to lead to a normal child. But there are limits. There are limits to that. So we have to be careful that we replenish vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals before we have that next child. Sugar and vegetable oils act like chemical static that block the signals in our body and can affect our gene expression tremendously and lead to preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, pregnancy diabetes. And so it's a consequence of not getting enough nutrients in our body. So there are genetic switches that inform every aspect of our physiological condition. Again, depending on what's in our fingers and our forks and what we're eating and what we breathe, affects our gene expression. So you want beautiful children, exercise, watch your habits, eat the right food. I mean, there can be some hard genes that can affect us, sure. That's only 10% of it. The rest is based on our habits, So mothers need to realize that. And that's the reason that children need nurturing and loving and hugging and mother's milk, which will give you the best epigenetic structure and make you the healthiest. And the darn trouble is a lot of our industrial complex, and the government supports the price of sugar and the price of corn, and most of us are eating very unhealthy food, and we become addicted to sugars and bad fats, making us very unhealthy, and the government supports that. And they spoke about the Hispanic paradox. And what is that? They noticed in California, a lot of Hispanics coming there, and the children looked a lot healthier. They seemed to be a lot healthier. They thought at first maybe is what they were eating, but in the end, they decided maybe it was their tremendous social support. Yeah, loving relationships, and can affect your epigenetic structure. So it's a combination. As soon as they started eating the fat, salt, and sugar of the American diet, the babies became sick and didn't look as good, didn't look as healthy too. So all those things affect, a baby. Let's speak about the hallmarks of fetal alcohol syndrome. If you're an alcoholic or you drink a lot of booze and you become pregnant, a significant number of children are born and they have microcephaly, a small brain. The facial appearance is different. They have certain folds about the eye, short nose, small chin, and a flat mid-face. They have a certain appearance, the whole fetal alcohol syndrome. And alcohol does that through epigenetic changes. Drugs will do it too. Drugs will do it too. Children are born of addicted parents, a mother or father or both have a certain appearance. A lot of them have a smaller brain. A lot of them are underweight. They're addicted. They literally have to be withdrawn, and some need to be restarted on Dilaudid or morphine or whatever to withdraw them from the drug. Would you believe it? And it can affect tremendous effects on them, make them very healthy, many for the rest of their life. May have a smaller brain, for example, but some may be perfectly normal. So in this country, there's sort of an apathy toward prenatal care. As soon as you're pregnant, they want to give you the vitamins and all that. For Pete's sake, take them. But before your pregnancy in this country, our parents taught in the school system, for example, about proper habits before a pregnancy, for example, or avoiding or pregnancy, for example. Very little proper nutrition, how that'll affect the baby. very little is taught on that. And that's a big mistake, because when I speak to the hospital nurses here, and they're telling me that a lot of the kids in intensive care have the abstinence syndrome from the narcotics. They have the hallmarks of fetal alcohol syndrome, a significant number, maybe 30–40% in some hospitals. Yeah. And all these things can be avoided, so you have to be aware. So we need preconception education needs to be increased tremendously, because a lot of the illnesses we're looking at today as adults occur as a child, and the child is helpless. The child is helpless, and so find out about the vitamins you should be taking once you are pregnant, but maybe educate yourself or your grandchildren or kids are going to have kids, and tell them if you're going to have a kid and you're addicted to alcohol or to drugs, you're going to have abnormal children, and it is sad. So, and the way the child looks will be affected by your habits. The symmetry of the child will be different through biomathematics and Fibonacci numbers. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it's fascinating. So, the nation may be destroying its future by what we're putting in our fingers or forks, lack of exercise, maybe a sitting disease. Sitting for an hour or two is like smoking a pack of cigarettes. So the uterus that the child is going to be in is like the soil in a farm. And as you keep on growing the same crops, there's going to be some depletion of the nutrients, but it's the same thing in the uterus. Yeah, it's the same thing in the uterus. We need to replace the vitamins, the minerals, before the next baby comes along. So we need to learn about nutrition. And I want to summarize things here a little bit. Remember, I'd like to encourage you to read Deep Nutrition by Luke and Kathleen Shanahan. It'll fascinate you. I mean, you can read a little bit at a time if you find it a little bit difficult. It's not, to me, it wasn't difficult, but you never know. A little bit at a time. Look at the pictures. And this can have tremendous effect on your future family, your present family. And what they're saying with this deep nutrition, they're saying too, if you eat, mainly a vegetable diet, and that'll change, not 100%, that'll change through biomathematics and through Fibonacci numbers will bring symmetry to your body, make you very healthy. It'll replace the enzymes that are missing things, because the vitamins, the minerals, the phytochemicals run the metabolism of your body. Weight loss will be simple, because you lose 30–40% of your calories through the metabolism of it. If you eat this way, and weight will not be a problem. That improve your activities of living, your AOL, okay? Pick a sport you like. I like tennis. What do you like? Ping pong, whatever. Walking is great. And you become very healthy, be of normal weight, have normal babies. So epigenetics is a fascinating subject. It's evolving, and you must understand it, that you can, through what's on your fingers, on your forks, if you exercise, can have tremendous effects on your health, your children's health, and also look good.